I was looking for an insurance document. That's all I was doing. It was a Tuesday evening and Adaeze was at work and I needed the form before the office closed the next morning. The notebook was in the second drawer of her desk. I thought it was a folder. I opened it because I needed to find that paper. I am a charge nurse. I have worked night shifts for 17 years. I have seen people at the worst moments of their lives and I have not flinched. I put on my gloves and I do what needs to be done. I read 3 pages before I understood what I was holding. I did not find the insurance document that night. Thank you for having me.
Margaret, welcome to Unspoken. Good evening and welcome back. I'm Harvey. This is Unspoken, the show where the people who carried the silence get to set it down for a little while. Tonight's caller is joining us from Houston, Texas. Her name is Margaret Okafor. She is a charge nurse. She has been in this country for over 2 decades. She raised 2 children in a faith community that is the center of her world. And one Tuesday evening, looking for a piece of paper, she found something that changed everything she thought she knew about her daughter. Before we go any further, tonight's story draws from real experiences. Details have been changed. This episode was made with AI, assistance visuals, voice, script, editing, all shaped by human hands. This show exists for straight spouses and for the LGBT people in their lives. Not to judge, to understand. If that matters to you, subscribe and share with one person who needs it.
Before. Yes. Before is a place I visit a lot these days. Before was full. That is the word. The house was always full. Amika, my husband, he is associate pastor at our church. So there were always people coming through. Sunday dinners with half the congregation. Bible study on Wednesday nights. I worked my shifts at the hospital and I came home and there was always something to do. Always someone who needed something.
Margaret, before we get to that Tuesday evening, tell me what your life looked like before.
I was not unhappy. I want to say that clearly. I was not a woman who was waiting for something to go wrong. I was a woman who was busy and grateful and who genuinely believed that she knew her family. Adaeze she is my reader, my writer. From the time she was small, she was always with a book. When other children were watching television, Adaeze was in a room with a notebook. She kept journals from the age of 9. I knew this. I was proud of it. I thought, this child processes the world through words. This is a gift.
Tell me about Adaeze.
She went to University of Houston, studied English literature. Amika wanted her to study something practical, medicine, law. I defended her. I said, let her study what she loves. She will find her way. After she graduated, she stayed in Houston. She was working at a nonprofit, doing grant writing. And she was working on a novel, she told me this, about a Nigerian woman, second generation, navigating America. I asked her what it was about, and she said, it's about what it costs to be seen, Mummy. I remember thinking that was beautiful. I thought I understood what she meant. I did not understand what she meant. She was 24 years old. She had been keeping journals her whole life, and I had never, not once, asked to read them. I thought I was respecting her privacy. Now, I think I was comfortable not knowing, because Adaeze always seemed fine. She was the child who did not need anything from me, or so I told myself. She came to church. She sang in the choir. She has a beautiful voice. She called me every Sunday after service. She came for Christmas and Easter. She asked about her father's sermons. She did everything a daughter is supposed to do. And she did it well enough that I never thought to ask what it cost her.
You said she seemed fine. What did that look like?
There was one small thing I filed away and forgot. About a year before that Tuesday, Adaeze brought a friend to Christmas dinner, a woman named Simone, Haitian American, very warm, very lovely, a preschool teacher. I liked her immediately. I asked Adaeze how they had met. She said, we were introduced through a mutual friend, very formal, like she had rehearsed it. I noted it, and then I forgot it. I had a 12-hour shift the next morning. The way you note a patient's chart entry that does not quite fit the diagnosis. You record it, you move on. You come back to it if the pattern continues. The pattern continued. I did not come back to it.
You noted it.
Nothing. That is the thing. Nothing changed. It was an ordinary week. I was looking for Adaeze's renter's insurance form because she had asked me to handle a renewal. She trusted me with the practical things. That was our language. I handled the logistics. She handled everything else alone. The drawer was half open already. The notebook was there, on top of everything else. Dark green cover, no label. I thought it was a folder. I opened it. The first line I read was in her handwriting, small, slanted, slightly to the left, the way she has always written since she was 9 years old. And I knew immediately that I should stop. I did not stop.
What changed right before that Tuesday?
There are things I can tell you about what I read, and there are things that belong only to Adaeze. I will tell you what is mine to tell. The notebook covered 2 years of a relationship with Simone. Not a friendship, a relationship. Detailed, real. The kind of writing that only happens when someone has been holding something very carefully for a very long time and the page is the only place it is safe to put it down. I read for an hour and a half. The first thing, and I am ashamed to say this, but it is true, the first thing I felt was not about Adaeze being a lesbian. The first thing I felt was that my daughter had a whole life I knew nothing about, a whole interior world, and she had decided carefully, deliberately, that I could not be part of it. That was the wound. Not what she was, that she had decided I could not hold it.
What did you feel?
I put the notebook back exactly where I found it. I left the drawer slightly open, the way it had been. I went to the kitchen. I made tea. I make tea when I do not know what else to do with my hands. I sat at the kitchen table and I drank it and I looked at the window. It was dark outside. I could see my own reflection. I sat there for 2 hours.
Go back. You said you read for an hour and a half. What happened when you stopped?
I was thinking about a line I had read. One line in the middle of the notebook. Adaeze had written, I have her permission to say this now, she had written, Mummy will love me the way she loves me no matter what I am. But I don't know if she can see me. Really see me. I don't think she knows how to look for what she's not expecting to find.
What were you thinking in that silence?
That line. That one line. I am a nurse. I assess. I diagnose. I act. And my daughter had written in her private journal that I did not know how to see her.
Yeah.
I thought I was a woman who paid attention. I thought attention was my professional skill, noticing what others miss, catching what is about to go wrong. And my daughter, who lived in this city, who called me every Sunday, who sat across from me at Christmas dinner with the woman she loved, my daughter had written that I did not know how to see her. That was not a statement about her being a lesbian. That was a statement about me as her mother. I went to work. I did my shift. I was precise and I was present, and I did not make a single error because I never make errors when I am in pain. Pain makes me more careful, not less. That is how I was trained. That is how I trained myself.
What did you do the next morning?
But on my lunch break, I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage, and I called my sister in Lagos, not to tell her, just to hear her voice. She asked if I was all right. I said yes. She said, Margaret, you sound like someone who has not slept. I said, I slept fine. I had not slept at all. I went back to work. I put on my gloves, and I began in my methodical way to figure out what to do next. 3 weeks before, I told a living soul. During those 3 weeks, I continued everything as normal. I went to church. I sang in the choir. Yes, I sing too. Adaeze got that from me. I had Adaeze over for dinner twice. I looked at her across the table and I smiled and I asked about her grant writing and she told me and we had a perfectly normal conversation. I hated myself for it. Not for knowing, for pretending I did not know, because that is what she had been doing for 2 years. And now I was doing it back to her.
How long before you told anyone?
I sat in the third pew on the left, where I always sit, Emeka was at the front, behind the pulpit, and I kept thinking, he does not know, and Adaeze does not know that I know. And I am the only person in this building who is holding all three parts of this at once.
Those weeks, what was going through your head at church?
Do you know what that feels like? To be the only person in the room who can see the whole picture. It feels like being a nurse in a crisis, knowing exactly how serious it is, knowing the patient cannot know yet, knowing you have to stay calm or everyone falls apart. I stayed calm. I fell apart in the parking lot afterward. Yes, it was. I had been managing the emotional climate of that household since Adaeze was small, making sure Emeka's work at the church was not disrupted, making sure Tabena, my son, felt valued, even though Adaeze was the one everyone noticed, making sure everything looked like what it was supposed to look like. I was so busy making sure of everything that I did not notice my daughter was disappearing inside herself right next to me.
There's something in what you just described, holding the full picture alone, staying calm so no one else has to. That's a role you've been playing in your family for a long time.
Week 3, I was at work a Thursday night shift, 12 hours. Around 2 a.m, there was a lull and I was updating charts and I thought, I cannot go to Sunday dinner again. I cannot sit across from Adaeze and pretend I am a bad liar. I have always been a bad liar. I became a nurse because I cannot look away from what is true.
When did the managing stop working?
I went home that Friday morning and I looked up PFLAG. I had heard the name once. A colleague had mentioned it years ago in passing. I did not look it up then. I looked it up at 7 a.m. after a night shift, still in my scrubs, sitting at the kitchen table where I had made the tea 3 weeks earlier. There was a chapter in Houston, a specific group for Black parents. I sent an email before I could change my mind. Emeka, that is its own story. He did not know for another 6 weeks. I made a decision, and I will stand by it, that I needed to find my own footing before I could be in that conversation with him. Because Emeka is a man of deep faith, and his faith is not just personal, it is his profession, his congregation, his identity.
Before you tell me about that group, what happened with Emeka?
I knew that when he found out, he would need me to be steady. And I could not be steady until I had done my own work first. It was. But I have been a nurse for 17 years. I know that you triage. You attend to what is most urgent first. The most urgent thing was that I needed to stop lying to my daughter's face every Sunday. Everything else came after.
That's a significant thing to carry alone for 6 weeks.
The first meeting I went alone. I sat in the back. There were 12 people in the room, all Black, mostly mothers, a few fathers, one grandmother. The facilitator was a woman named Denise, mid-50s, grew up in the church. Her son had come out 6 years earlier. She started the meeting by saying, "You are not here because something went wrong. You are here because you are a parent who is still showing up."
Tell me about the PFLAG group.
I cried through the entire first meeting. I did not say a single word. I just sat in the back and cried and let other people's stories fill the room. On the drive home, I called my sister. I told her everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Margaret, is Adaeze still Adaeze?" I said, "Yes." She said, "Then you know what to do." She was right. I did know. I had always known, underneath all the panic and the theology and the fear of what the church would say, I had always known that Adaeze was mine, and that was not going to change.
What did she say?
I asked her to come for lunch on a Saturday. Just the two of us. I told Emeka I needed the house. Adaeze came at noon. I had made jollof rice, her favorite, the way my mother made it. I thought, if I am going to say the hardest thing, at least let the food be right.
How did the conversation with Adaeze happen?
We sat down, and before she could eat, I said, "Ada, I need to tell you something I did, and I need you to hear all of it before you respond." She put down her fork. I told her I had found the notebook. I told her what I had read. I told her I had sat on it for almost 2 months. I told her I was sorry, not for knowing, but for taking so long to say so, and for every moment in those 2 months where I had looked her in the face and pretended. She was very still while I spoke. Adaeze is like me. She goes still when she is processing something. She does not cry immediately. She thinks first. When I finished, she said, "How much did you read?" I said, "Enough to know about Simone, enough to know how long you had been alone with this." She said, "Did you read the part about," and then she stopped herself. I said, "Ada, you don't have to protect me from your own story. Not anymore."
Yeah.
She cried then. We both did. It was not the crying of relief, not yet. It was the crying of two people who had been very close to each other for 24 years and had somehow, carefully, without meaning to, built a wall between themselves. The jollof rice got cold. Neither of us ate for an hour. She told me about Simone, how they actually met, not the rehearsed version. She told me how long she had been writing in journals because it was the only place she could be honest. She told me she had almost called me twice, once 2 years ago, once last Christmas, and both times she had stopped herself.
What came out in that hour?
I asked her why. She said, "Because I love you too much to watch you struggle with it. I thought if I just managed it myself, you wouldn't have to go through anything." I recognized that immediately. She had learned it from me. Manage it yourself. Don't make others carry it. Stay calm so no one else has to. I had taught my daughter how to hide from me. No, it is not. I have sat with it every day since.
That's not a small thing to sit with.
But here is what I also know. She is still here. Simone has been to dinner, a real dinner, not a managed one. Emeka is working through it. He is a man of faith, and that faith is being stretched right now in ways that are painful for him. But he has not walked away. He is still at the table. That is not nothing. And Adaeze last month, she sent me the first 3 chapters of her novel. She had never shown me her writing before. She said, "I want you to read it, Mommy. The real version. The real version. Not the managed one." I read it in one sitting. It is extraordinary. She is an extraordinary writer. And I sat there reading my daughter's words, her actual words, not what she thought I wanted to hear. And I thought, this is who she has always been. This whole person. And I nearly missed her.
The real version. Margaret Okafor, calling from Houston. Thank you.
Thank you for making space for this.
Margaret came to this program because her PFLAG group told her about it. She wanted to speak to mothers, specifically mothers from African immigrant communities who are standing at the same door she stood at. I think she did that tonight. Here's what came in before the call. Naomi from Atlanta, Georgia, shares this. I was in Margaret's position 11 years ago. My daughter came out to me, she chose to tell me, which I now understand is a gift not every parent receives. I didn't handle it well at first. I said things I regret, but I want to say this to every mother listening. The door doesn't close just because you reacted badly in the beginning. I spent 2 years repairing what I broke, and my daughter let me. We are close now in a way we were not before, because we are honest now in a way we were not before. Healing is not a straight line, it's a direction. Naomi from Atlanta, a direction, not a destination. From Memphis, Tennessee, Pastor Yvonne writes, I am a black woman pastor, and tonight's episode is one I will be sharing with my congregation's family ministry team. Margaret's story sits at the intersection of faith and motherhood in a way that I recognize deeply. The question she is really asking, can I love my child fully and hold my faith fully at the same time, is the question many of our families are quietly asking. I don't have a clean answer, but I believe God is large enough for the honest question. Margaret asked the honest question. That is where it starts. Pastor Yvonne from Memphis. The honest question. This comment has no name and no location. The account is at the weight she carried. I want to name something this episode didn't say directly. Adaeze spent 2 years alone with her own story. 2 years of writing it in a notebook because there was nowhere else to put it. The healing arc in this story belongs to Margaret, and Margaret did the work, and that matters. But someone should also say the cost of that silence was Adaeze's to pay first. She carried it before Margaret ever had to. I'm glad they're talking now. I just want her 2 years named. Named. Both things true. The work Margaret did and the years Adaeze carried it first. If tonight is landing somewhere in you, if there's a conversation you've been managing, instead of having, leave a comment. Share this episode with one person. That's how this community finds the people who need it most. This next perspective comes from Precious, 23, from Houston, Texas. I am a second-generation Nigerian American woman. I am also a writer. I have 3 notebooks under my bed right now that my mother has never read. When Margaret described Adaeze's writing the novel about what it costs to be seen, the journal that was the only safe place I had to stop the video, because that is my life. That is exactly my life. I want to say to Adaeze, wherever she is, you wrote your way to a mother who could finally read you. That is not a small thing. That is an act of enormous faith in language. Keep writing. Precious from Houston. 3 notebooks under the bed. From Phoenix, Arizona, a man named William writes, my wife went through something similar with our son 3 years ago. I was the one who struggled longer. I'm still struggling, honestly. But I want to say something to the emigrants in these stories. We are not absent. We are slow. There is a difference. I am still at the table. It looks different than my wife's version of being at the table, but I am there. I ask fathers who are slow, don't let slow become gone. There is still time. William from Phoenix, don't let slow become gone. From Chicago, Illinois, Renata, 49, I was the friend in the middle of this kind of story, the one who knew about the daughter before the mother did. I held that secret for 14 months because it was not mine to tell. It cost me something. The friendship with the mother strained when she found out I had known. We repaired it eventually, but I want to say to anyone holding someone else's secret right now, you are doing a hard and loving thing. It has a cost. It is still the right thing. Renata from Chicago, holding someone else's secret, the invisible work of the people who love from the middle. And last tonight, from New Orleans, Louisiana, a 22-year-old named Adaeze. I'm queer and black, and my parents are deeply in the church. I watched this episode with the volume low so nobody in my house would hear it. Margaret said something that I keep replaying, that she had taught her daughter how to hide from her. I have been thinking about that for an hour. My mother taught me the same thing, not on purpose, but she did. And I have been hiding for so long, I don't even know what the unhidden version of me sounds like. But Adaeze found out. She sent her mother the real version. Maybe there is a real version of me that I haven't sent anyone yet. Maybe tonight is closer to that than I thought. Adaeze from New Orleans, volume low, door closed. We hear you. Margaret went looking for an insurance form and found her daughter instead. Not the version her daughter had carefully constructed for her, the real one. The one who had been writing herself into existence for 15 years in notebooks, in the only language she trusted enough to be honest in. The form never did get found, by the way. Margaret told me that before we started tonight. They had to request a new one. I think about that. All that searching for a piece of paper, and what she actually needed had been in that drawer the whole time. To every parent listening tonight who hasn't yet found a way to read the real version of their child, it's not too late to learn how to look. This is Unspoken. I'm Harvey. We'll see you next week.